shrink this here for myself. So this is being recorded today, and we'll go ahead and we will put a copy of this onto YouTube for people to reference later if they weren't able to come tonight. So my name is Chrissy Roberts. I am the executive director and owner of Quiet Heart Wilderness School, and your kids are coming to camp with us this summer. We're pretty excited to see everyone. It's going to be a really great summer. We have more camps than we've ever had. We have 500 student spots this summer, which we're really proud of. We've grown quite a bit. And so we're pretty excited. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. If it'll let me, if I can figure out. There we go. So this is our land acknowledgement. It is rather long. I'm going to give you all, since you're here and you can see it, I'm going to give you all just a couple minutes to read it. I'm not going to read it out loud for that. So go ahead and read it, and we'll talk about what that means to us and why we've got it there. Okay, hopefully you've gotten enough to give a little bit. You can keep reading while I talk through it as well. Our land acknowledgement is a little bit long because we wanted to make sure that it was meaningful. This is not something we read out loud all the time. This is something that means a lot to us, and we put a lot of thought into creating it. What does it mean for us? It means that we acknowledge that the skills that we're teaching and the land that we're working on, that many peoples have lived here, and that we are not the original peoples that are take care of this land. We're not the original caretakers, and we've learned a lot from the people of this land. And we acknowledge a lot of our skills as we are doing them. We say where these practices have come from, what groups have taught us these things, and we're pulling from practices from all around the world, but especially here in the peoples of our region. So the next piece is a little bit about who Quiet Heart is and what we do. Our mission statement here at Quiet Heart: we facilitate the connections between people and place, developing our ties to the past, present, and future. Through building awareness and practicing traditional skills and knowledge, we empower our students to be lifelong stewards of the land. We work to build a community of individuals with confidence, empathy, and resilience who respect themselves, others, and the natural world. Something I really wanted to pull out about that is that the skills and the activities that we teach are meant to inspire lifelong connection and care. We're trying to build a generations of stewards who feel connected to this place and to each other. And we're also working to empower students to feel self-reliant, to feel confident in the outdoors, to feel like they have a place here. We do this through our educational philosophy. We provide hands-on experiences and ideas for students to expand their knowledge of the natural world while also creating space to explore individual interests. I think that's key. At Quiet Heart programs, we are presenting things as a group, we are working as a group, but we also honor the individual stories that people are bringing. So every student brings their own story and strengths, and we value every single child's individual learning journey. There are very few things that we require everyone to do, and most of those are for safety. Things like we all have to walk together in a place, we can't run off and things like that. But other than that, we're going to introduce an activity. We're going to ask children to be respectful, but we're also going to allow them to opt out and say, this is not something I want to do right now, and provide them with options to do things. This is not like a traditional classroom experience. We do inquiry and exploration, and we think critically. We access their inner wisdom and building empathy and respect. So I'm not gonna, all of this is on our website as well. So what does that look like in practice? What we do, we are about nature connection. So we are trying to inspire students through knowledge and activities and working with materials and being present in nature to feel connected, to feel that belonging in nature. The 3 R's, we always tell our students that we only have 3 rules at camp. In all of our camps, we only have 3 rules, but we can get away with that because they're so big. The 3 R's are respect for yourself, respect for each other, and respect for this place or nature. Those are the same 3 rules that were throughout our program, from our little chipmunks all the way to our teen programs. Those are the rules that we talk about. And the kids and the instructors will work together to define what those mean. And that will be an ongoing process. On day 1, we talk about the rules and what we do and who we are and how we treat each other. And that is going to be refined throughout the weeks as we continually refer back to those 3 R's. Student and nature-centered learning. So we have a plan. We always have a plan, right? But we are also willing to throw that plan out the window. I always tell the story of we had an after-school program and we had a plan going into it. And as we walked out, there was a dead bird on the ground. And when nature gives you a dead bird, you go with dead bird. So the whole afternoon, we talked about dead bird and the kids learned about the dead bird. And they were engrossed in this, what could have happened to this bird. And look at the beak structure and the feathers. And was that on the plan for today? No, it was not. But when you're given those opportunities, you do them. So we have intentions, but we're also willing to throw those out the window when we're presented with something really cool. Another story is I was working with some students last summer in Yost Park, and we were supposed to be doing an activity. I was actually supposed to be sinking and fading, where I am in the negative space, and it's talking about building awareness. And so I wasn't supposed to be reacting to any students. They weren't really supposed to be able to find me. They would really have to be paying attention. A barred owl swoops over and swoops down, catches a mouse and starts eating it on a branch. The sink and fade activity was over at that point. We're going to talk about the barred owl and we're going to sit there. And this group was a pretty wild group, and they sat there in silence for about a half an hour watching that barred owl. That's just an example of the things. We are not set in stone. We do a lot of independent explorations and free play. And through our pictures, you can kind of see how we do that. So there's some activities here. We've got some young women in the bottom picture that we're working on doing some weaving. That was one of our activities of the day. So they were exploring that, but they were also decided they wanted to go out and pick some berries. So that's what they had been doing. Incidentally, the tallest of those young women, I think I need to update my pictures because the tallest of those women is actually an instructor for us this summer. So that kind of gives you some idea about continuation and students that are with us for long periods of time. We also do a gradual buildup of skills. And I kind of wanted to mention that you see in the other picture on this page, this slide, you see our little chipmunks, and they are building what we call fairy forts. And I mean, we're all building fairy houses, right? And things like that. That's a pretty common activity. We build them because we're modeling what a survival shelter might look like for them. So if you can see, they've got that structure of that top beam with the ribs on the side and the insulation. They're working on that so that when they get to the next level, they know how to build a shelter. They've already done it a million times. It's just been this big instead of full size. That's kind of, and we have that gradual buildup of skills through our program. Another thing that we do, we allow students to learn boundaries and assess risk through activities like playing with sticks, climbing trees, learning to carve, building fire, etc. I always tell the story that my daughter once went to a camp and they wouldn't allow them to run because it was too dangerous. That will not be happening at a Quiet Heart camp. We definitely want them to run, and they're going to run on the trails. And they're going to learn how to manage their own selves in nature. We are doing activities like fire and knives. I always say that my husband has told me that this is a bad idea, but I think our tagline should be giving children fire and knives since 1997. But I've been told that might scare a few people away, so we don't put that on the t-shirts. But we do. We teach them how to use tools appropriately. We teach them how to build fires, and it creates a community where children feel independent and resilient, and that they can depend on themselves because we've given them the knowledge to do so and given them the freedom to learn these skills. We also do a lot of community building. In the picture of the young men here on the side, they are working on building a fire using a bow drill, and they're doing a team bow drill there. Friction fire, if any of you have ever tried it, is very challenging. And so they were working together before building to an individual practice. We are always helping children work to the edge of their comfort zone. We're nudging those edges. And we see progress even in a week of camp. We see the first day we'll get kids that say, bugs. And by the end, they're in the dirt kind of digging and pulling out the insects. And that's really, we're trying to meet every child where they're at, but we're also trying to help them realize that they are strong and that they can accomplish great things. We do a lot of land stewardship as well, kind of worked in through our day, and we do have a lot of fun. My next slides are favorite because this is what we don't do. We don't go inside almost ever. That is, I will say, we will go inside. Some exceptions are extreme weather. So for our knives and fire camps at Coyote Camp, or so primitive skills, teen survival, all of our harder skills camps, we are able to go inside the building at the Edmonds Unitarian Universalist Congregation if there is, for example, this fall we had, or spring actually, and fall, we had huge hailstorms, so we needed to go inside. And at Yost, the Cascade Swim Club has said if there is extreme weather, we're welcome to go inside their building as well. At Pine Ridge, if there is extreme weather, we did have a lightning storm last summer. We typically go inside the cars of the instructors because we don't have an inside building there, but we're safe in those cars because that's where our groups are pretty small. That's one thing I love about Quiet Heart is that we're small enough to be flexible and we're small enough to problem solve. And we'll talk about that a little bit later when it comes into our air quality policy. We do not live by a schedule or really pay attention to time. That comes into play because I always get parents that say, oh, we're going to be late. What time is lunchtime? And I say, when the children are hungry. We don't know what time lunchtime is going to be. It's typically around the same time every day, but we're not looking at a clock. As a matter of fact, we're going to ask you to have your children not have watches or phones with us. There are always exceptions. There are some children with anxiety and things like that that need that structure. We talk very significantly with parents about that, though. We really don't want children with watches, and we want them to be present. So much of their life is having to go on to the next thing or having to, what's happening? I'm missing something. I'm missing out, right? FOMO. We want them to be present. And so we don't want attention to time. We don't live by a schedule. We have a general idea. That does come into play, though. That means if you do need early pickup or late drop off, you need to communicate with your instructors and be ready to walk into the forest to come help us get your kid. There are times where we can walk out to the parking lot, but there are times when that's not going to be possible for instructors. And so you're going to need to work with them, and you can find a meeting point. And they're typically very easy to work with. And we have counselors that can help too. We do not shield kids from all natural hazards. Things like stinging nettle and blackberry Your kids are probably going to have some encounters with them. The very first plant we teach them is going to be stinging nettle, and we're going to be showing them where they are, and we're going to be doing everything we can to point things out to them. But we want children to feel independent, and we want them to know. So, I mean, obviously this varies. With our littlest ones, we're going to be shielding them a bit more versus our older ones. But there probably are going to be some skinned knees, and there might be some scratches. There might be things like that. We are going to let them climb trees up to a certain height, because we feel like having those healthy risks and having them determine those risks assessments, there's all sorts of research that says that is crucially important for children. So that's the thing. We are not providing a risk-free environment. We do hazard assessments all the time as we're moving through the forest, and we are looking and we're trying to assess everything. The forest is unpredictable, and we use everything as a learning moment. So we're going to be doing the best we can, but there will probably be some scratches. We cannot provide specialized care necessary for students with significant behavioral needs. I put an asterisk on that because we often find parents whose kids don't necessarily do as well in a traditional classroom do really great with us because of the freedom they have, because they're outside in nature, because we're teaching them skills to rely on themselves. However, a lot of times we get people who think we're going to be some sort of like therapy program in the woods. I've had a lot of people ask me that question. We are not mental health specialists. We are not, this is not that type of program. And we will work with parents to be able to figure out how to best support their kids. And we can do a lot. We're very flexible with our community. And if you have questions, feel free to contact us and we can work with things a lot. The last one is we definitely will not keep your children clean. We do not keep children clean. I highly recommend bringing a towel for pickup for your car, because some days they are going to end up like that, covered in mud. So we're going to go into our camp and park locations. So our Explorer Camp, Forest Camp, Birds and Beasts are all starting at 8:30. That's at Yost Park. The drop-off is at the northwest end of the parking lot. As you drive around, you'll see us. We don't drop off in front of the pool anymore, simply because there's a lot of swimming programs going on, and it was a little chaotic with the cars there. So we're asking you, please park your car, come out and sign your children in every day. We have a staggered drop off. So we also have a group coming at 9 o'clock, Shelters and Stealth, Summer in the Woods. I've highlighted this Explorer Camp, and then Forest Scientists. Those are the 2 additional sessions I added of Explorer Camp because it was so popular. Those were the only holes I had in the whole summer for them. And they happened to be at 9 o'clock. So that, I'm hoping that's not too confusing for families. You may be in Explorer Camp that started at 8:30. You may be in one that starts at 9, just because those are the only places we could add camps. So just keep that in mind. If you have any questions, let me know. The pickup will be in front of the pool building. We ask children to stay behind that metal bar until we have confirmed that their parents are with them. The Little Chipmunks, we have 9 sessions of Little Chipmunks, our ages 4 to 6 at Pine Ridge Park. If you are a Little Chipmunk parent, I cannot emphasize this enough. Please put the address into your map function, not the name of the park. Every year we have people, the park is kind of long and skinny, and we have people that end up in the neighborhoods on the other side of the park because Google or whatever is sending them there. Please put that address in so you can get to the main parking lot. There is no other parking lot for the park. So this parking lot is where we will be from 10 to 2. Pickup and drop off is right behind that yellow gate there. Coyote Camp is at the Edmonds Unitarian Universalist Congregation. We are in their back parking lot. So if you drive behind the building, we are in the northeast corner of the parking lot. It is in a parking lot. I do want to let you know, we've been there for, oh gosh, since the early 2000s there. However, there's a large green open space behind that. There's Chase Lake Reservoir on the side, so we are not stuck in that parking lot corner for the entire day. Just parents are always concerned about that. However, we will be, these camps, primitive skills, teen survival skills. Oops, I put Stone Age experience. These dates probably are off. I didn't fix this. This is from last year, my mistake. Advanced primitive skills and wild women are there. Those are the camps that are very skills focused. So they will be spending a lot of time there, especially because it takes a long time for them to figure out how to get a fire. A typical camp day, we have a check-in, a group activity. We will always have a Thanksgiving circle as part of our morning. We will have a sit spot where children spend individual time in nature, from our 4-year-olds all the way to our teens. We give them a sit spot. Obviously, our 4-year-olds are probably staying out a little bit shorter of a time than our teens, but they will be going out. They will have their special place that they will spend time at, kind of noticing nature. The little kids will always have like a focus question. As they get older, we're just going to say, hey, we're going to want you to go out and spend some time with yourself. This turns into a highlight for many, many children because they are alone, but we always know where they are. We are around them in general, but they are by themselves. And that is, they've got their special place where they notice things. We've even had kids, we give them some bird seed. We've even had kids had like a chipmunk once was their friend, and they would come by the Friday that they had worked so hard to be so silent and quiet. The chipmunk came right up to them, which is really cool for that kid. That doesn't happen very often, but it does. And so they really that's a really key component to a Quiet Heart program. There will always be an activity of the day that is presented. Sometimes 2, mostly just 1. That activity could be something tangible that they're going to take home. Like these children on the bottom they've made cordage out of raffia, which is a rope making technique. The children at the top are learning some fire skills, and that's typically the check-in activity at our harder skills camps at the EUCC Coyote Camp. There will be an activity presented every day. Sometimes that activity is going to be something like camouflage, where they're not actually making something, but they are participating in learning, or a plant ID day or something like that, or a navigation day. We always have independent work or playtime, possibly a second activity, really depends on the group. Some groups love it, and so they're ready for that second activity in the afternoon. Some groups are just wanting to do their own thing in the afternoon. So we really kind of play it by ear on that one. Game time, always games, oftentimes more than one game, lots of games, and a closing reflections circle. For our little chipmunks, obviously this is compressed, but they still have a similar idea because they only have a 4-hour camp day. Supplies, everybody asks about this. Your child will be getting a Quiet Heart t-shirt on day 1. Most of our students are getting like a gray or tan t-shirt. Our little chipmunks get a bright orange one because we want to know where they are in the woods. So we want clothing that kind of blends into the environment in general. Little chipmunks, we're going to have a little bit of an extra because we want to know where they are. Closed-toed shoes for knives and fire camps are key. I would highly recommend no flip-flops, but we always get kids every year that insist they can hike in flip-flops, and they do it all day. Layers. I would like to remind everyone, even though it's been beautiful this past week, oftentimes the summer in Seattle is quite chilly or rainy. Make sure that your child is prepared for a full day outside. Being cold outside isn't fun. Everybody needs to have a backpack, from our littlest kids all the way to our biggest kids, because they will be carrying their own gear. A full water bottle, large enough for the day. We do have refills of water bottles, but we definitely want people to have a full water bottle for the day. We need a healthy lunch or snack. We're going to please, we don't want to say no treats, but please don't be sending a whole bag full of marshmallows with your child. That's not fair. We'll send them home with you guys all sugared up. We'll give them all to them at the very end. At Coyote Camp, where the kids are building a fire, they will have an opportunity to cook over a campfire. In that case, they will be able to, there will be a shared grill, and they can bring things like, typically we somewhat cooked things are the best, hot dogs, things like that. Some kids will bring hamburgers and things like that. I have seen, even if they don't bring things traditionally, I have seen kids cook everything over the campfire. I saw a kid cook a Cheeto over the campfire. I've seen kids cook literally everything over the campfire. So, and they will talk about that on their first day of camp, of what they could bring in the future days. Our knife camps, we recommend a fixed blade carving knife. I need to emphasize this is only for summer in the woods, primitive skills, advanced primitive skills, teen survival, and wild women. If you are not in one of those camps, please do not bring a knife to camp. We will not be using them. As it is, something like summer in the woods, primitive skills, those kind of beginning skills courses, they're going to be required to ask an instructor to use that. So they're going to keep that in their bag, and we will have an agreement with them to do that. This year, we've been adding some cut resistant gloves. We haven't done that in the past because kids typically would have come with these huge leather gloves, which make it really hard to carve because they can't move their fingers. However, they are coming out with cut resistant gloves that are much more forming to hands. And so we are kind of trying this out this year of our beginners. If they would like to bring some cut resistant gloves, we think that might eliminate a few of those minor cuts that might happen when they're learning how to carve. Journals and pencils, always optional. We also have journals. Most of the camps will get their own nature journal, but some kids like to have their own pencils and colors and things like that. And sunscreen and a hat. Oh, by the way, I'm running through these right now, but there will be at the end, you can ask me any questions you'd like. There are bathroom runs throughout the day. I want to emphasize they're in a porta potty. If you have a small child, please, please, please practice using a porta potty with them before they come to us. It is challenging for them if the first time they've ever used a porta potty is with one of their instructors. If you are late or absent, please text or call your instructors. Please arrange, keep those two, so arrange any early pickups with instructors in the morning and be prepared to hike into the park. They will not always be able to meet you. We will say, keep them to a minimum if you can. We understand things happen, but if you can, keep them to a minimum. And what I like to say is, imagine trying to wrangle 18 children and get into the woods, and you finally got them in the woods and you've got them set up and you're all the way out there and someone calls and you have to send an instructor back to get people. Or you've just given the directions for an activity and you've just done it and someone arrives and you have to do it all over again. Again, we understand things happen. Traffic, who knows? Sometimes traffic is totally unpredictable. We get that. But please do your best to keep them to a minimum. Leave watches and cell phones at home, or if your student has them, let your instructor know. Students will not be allowed to take pictures of other students at camp. Sometimes students get really excited about taking pictures of things that they have made. And we talk with the instructors and work with them on that, but in general, we're not taking pictures at camp. Your student will get a t-shirt on the first day in the size indicated on their registration. I'm assuming most of you are first-time parents, so this is probably not going to apply to you, but sometimes we have kids that have been with us for many years and they still have not updated their t-shirts. So I'm getting, juniors in high school that tell me they're an extra small kids t-shirt. That doesn't work. I know that's not the case. So please update those. Extreme weather. Given the smoke that's happening on the East Coast right now, this is kind of top of mind. If there will be a notification 7 a.m. at the program day if the program needs to be altered or canceled. We will be sending it by email to the primary and secondary email on file with Sawyer, which is how we've been communicating with you this whole time. For air quality, if it is in the unhealthy for sensitive groups, we will hold programs, but we adjust activities so we're not running around as much. I will say, especially for our forested areas, we typically see that the smoke is less inside the forest. If it's unhealthy in the red zone, we will cancel programs for the day. This is where Quiet Heart, I think, is kind of cool. Of course I do, because I own Quiet Heart. We're going to try a day. We may, if it's kind of on the edge, we'll let parents know, hey, we're going to try to hold camp, but be ready to pick up your kid. If we say this isn't going to happen today, be ready to pick up your kid. And if you were in a situation where that's not possible for you, don't bring your kid to camp that day. And the reason why we do this is because we're trying to give you the camps that you paid for, right? We're trying to give you the experience you paid for. So we're going to try to, as much as we can, to do that. If we see, and there are times when it's still in the orange, and we had I can think of a particular day where it was still technically in the orange, but all the kids were feeling, we could tell they were feeling it. And so we called all the parents and said, nope, we're out. This is not working for our kids. This isn't good for them. And the parents came and got them. And we'll let you know about that ahead of time. But we really try to be flexible to try to avoid those situations where we're making the call at 7 p.m. or 7 a.m. when everything is really okay, but it's predicted. And then the predictions change, which we all know can happen. So we're really working with that. Also, not all camps may be altered in the same way. Our camps are in different locations. And for example, that one example I gave where we knew the kids were feeling affected and we called it, in another camp, it was still in the orange. The kids were fine. They were actually down by the creek in Yost Park and just chilling out there. And they were okay. So we kind of are working with parents and working with them like that. I like to say the other option is just canceling the whole day altogether. And so we'd rather give it a shot sometimes. Not if it's clear that we can't do it, but if it's on the edge, which sometimes it can be. The last slide I want to talk about is Quiet Heart leadership. I'm certain you probably got the email letting everyone know that I am the outgoing executive director. The incoming executive director as of July 1st will be Jeremy Cobb, the gentleman with the long beard. I will let you know he has that long braided beard because he's been getting his bachelor's degree, and he said he's not cutting it. He's gone back to school. He's a self-taught stone tools expert. He's amazing, but he's gone back to school to get his official degree in anthropology, and he's not cutting that until he gets the degree, which I think is this week. So we'll see what he looks like when he comes to camp. And Linnea Common, who actually is on this call today, is the program director. For those of you who have never met me, you're probably not even going to notice the difference. Honestly, things are going to keep going. I'm going to be around all summer to help in case things, he's the incoming, the way we've worked this is he's the incoming director, but I'm here. So if he says, hey, how did you do this? I'll say, oh, hey, we normally did it like this. And Linnea is also, she's completing her first year as program director. So she's been with us. She's been an instructor for many years and with us for the whole year. So she's also very knowledgeable about what's going on. So for the majority of you, you won't even notice a difference. If you have met me before, the main difference is you won't get me jabbering at you at the end of beginning of camp. That's probably the only difference you're going to notice, to be fair. Okay, I'm done talking. Thank goodness. I'd love to get questions from you all. If you have any questions about that kind of whirlwind of a presentation. So you can either put them in the chat or you can go ahead and just unmute yourself and give it a go. While we're pausing, Linnea, did you want to introduce yourself? Because Linnea is on this call. Linnea, our program director. Oh, she's just gone off screen. I've put her on the spot.
That's okay. Am I there? Am I there? Okay. If you can hear me.
Oh, we can't hear you, Linnea, sorry. It's because she's being a true wilderness instructor and trying to do outside. You'll see her though. Any other questions about Quiet Heart and what we do? Good question. Do we need the legal form ahead of time, or can you just bring it the morning of? You can absolutely bring it the morning of. And we also always have hard copies because we don't assume that everybody has a printer nowadays. So we always have hard copies of the waivers too. Also, I was always the mom that would print it out and then leave it at home. So I always go for that mom because I was always that mom. So we'll always have hard copies available for the waiver. And you only, if you're there for the whole summer, or you've got multiple kids, you only need one waiver for your whole family. Just put everybody on there. I always tell people to put even kids that aren't necessarily in camp yet on there, just so you don't have to fill out another waiver later on. Let's see. The optional carving knife for primitive skills. Will we send out some parameters? Yes. So hopefully all of you received you must have received it because you're on this Zoom call, the camp info. On there was a link to a supplies page, and on that link tells the camp knives we use. Kids bring all sorts of different knives, especially things that they're used to. We recommend a fixed blade knife because of what we do with them. Folding knives, especially folding knives that do not lock, are not great for what we do. They're going to be billeting wood, which is where you take here. You take the knife and you hold it like this and you bam down on it to break the wood. That's not safe with a folding knife that is not locking. It's not really safe with a folding knife at all. We'll most likely have them use a camp knife. So we recommend the Mora knife companion series. It's the 4.1-inch blade. But we have a link on that website and as well as the gloves. The link is an Amazon link, but you can also get them from all sorts of different places. They're a very common carving knife. Is everybody excited for a summer of wild adventures? I see we have one camper that's very excited. That is awesome. It's going to be so much fun. It's the so I live right next to Yost Park where we hold lots of our camps, and I'm near Pine Ridge as well. And I know especially the owls have been out a lot right now. So we're going to definitely see some owl encounters this summer, which is awesome. I've got to see the babies the other day. So yeah. Does anybody else have any other questions? I'm always happy to help. I love talking about Quiet Heart. So is there sufficient time to drop one kid off at Yost and one kid at Coyote? Great question. So if you have two 9 a.m. ones, just let us know. Two 9 a.m. drop-offs. If you have one in Yost Park and one at Coyote Camp, just let us know. We'll typically say do the Yost Park one first because they move off into the park, whereas the Coyote Camp, they have to stick around. It takes them a long time to build that fire. So they'll be there at that base camp for a while. But just let us know. If you have an 8:30 and a 9, oh yeah, you'll plenty of time. It's only like 5 minutes in between the two. Same with Yost Park and Pine Ridge Park, or Coyote Camp and Pine Ridge Park. Plenty of time. It's like a 10-minute triangle there. They're all very close to each other. Yes, you can get the presentation in a PDF, and I will go ahead and I will make a note because I have to write everything. In June, I have to write everything down because my to-do list is 5 million pages long, but I will send the PDF out as well as the YouTube link to the YouTube video link that we will put together. I'm not seeing a ton of other questions. I'm always, again, if you have other questions or more specific questions, feel free to email or call. Especially this time of year, I am pretty much always at my desk Monday through Friday because we're just trying to crank out all the stuff, all the paperwork and all that it takes to get to camp. Um, so I'd love to talk about camp, and I'd love to talk with you all about it too. Great. Well, thanks so much for being here. If there's no other questions, I'm going to stop the recording. Doo-doo-doo.